helped. From my emails, you can tell I've been in Colorado giving presentations to architects with our materials. So
nice.
I incorporated the elevator pitch, and it helped.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. And we get that product review video done for you guys next week. You guys will have the #1 video too.
Pretty excited.
You know, it builds validity. When you got somebody on the fence and they can't make a decision, say, you know, do this. Go to YouTube, search this. We're #1. Pretty impressive, huh?
Absolutely. You've been helping me quite a bit with getting me up and running, so it's made a real difference for me.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's what I'm here for, guys. I got one client. I did a half an hour with him 2 weeks ago. He implemented it. Following 3 days later, he said that he's already seen a major increase in business. Phones are ringing more than ever. Simple stuff, you know. But that's what I'm here for. So anybody in a major hurry, got a bid due in the next hour, would like to start, or just in a major hurry in general, got a bid, proposal, solicitation, question, let's get her done. Anyone with anything to work on? Bid, proposal, solicitation, question?
Hey, John.
Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead, guys.
We're new to this. I mean, we've had a consulting business for a long time, but we're new to this bidding process. And
what's the name of your company?
G.S.A. Safety.
Excellent. Got it.
So, and I know I sent over that solicitation number for this fit testing. And one of the things I don't understand how you get to learn, like when I look at the pricing schedule, you know, it says, you know, you're going to do 600 through a period of 9 months of fit test and this and that. But, you know, obviously there'd be a huge difference in the bid is, okay, so are you going to Buffalo 1 time a year? Or are you going there 9 times a year? How do you know what to bid on this?
You said you emailed me the link?
Yeah, well, the solicitation number I know I gave to somebody else. I thought Wendy.
Can you, you can see the GoToMeeting link, right? There's a little chat window. Can you pop it in the chat window?
Yes.
All right, I'm sure Wendy forwarded it to me. I can try and search for her email as well.
Let me find the chat window. There's the chat window.
GoToMeeting, you should see a window for GoToMeeting, and there should be a little box that says chat.
Yeah, he got it. He's going to type it in. I can read it to you.
Oh, here it is. Yeah, she did send it to me.
Okay, good.
36C 24218 Quebec 0447.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So basically, this is something that's up our avenue, and we've done this a lot non-government wise for a lot of companies over the years. But when I look at their pricing schedule on this, because I told them, I said, "There's no way we can bid on this. How do you know what the price is out at?" Because there's unit of issue at 600 and then 50, and the period of performances from May 15 to 18 into March 19. So okay, so they need 600 fit tests. So if I'm going up to Buffalo, New York, and I'm going to fit test 600 people in the next day or two, that's fine. But like obviously, if you made 7 or 8 or 9 trips up there, the cost is much different. So how do you find out from the client how many times you would be up there to do that?
Okay.
If that
makes complete sense. Now, keep in mind, right, this is the federal government, number one. Number two,
okay.
These purchasing and procurement agents are humans.
Okay.
And, and they don't know a whole lot about what they're purchasing a lot of times, all right? Most federal purchasing and procurement agents are not specialists in any specific field. They're jack of all trades. They buy hundreds,
okay.
if not thousands of different things a year. So they rarely know a lot about what they're buying.
Okay.
That makes sense?
Yeah. So typically I'm assuming then also, like I know when we do emergency preparedness exercise for government, when you have a question, you can only email a question, then, everybody sees a response. So how would I have 2 or 3 questions for this individual bid. What's the best way to go about asking the questions I would have?
Well, the best way to go about it in the grand scheme of things is to email them and wait for their response, in which case they're typically going to respond with a Q&A, so everyone gets to see the answers, which if you called them and asked them a question, more than likely they would still have to do a Q&A and give everybody the answers to the question, otherwise it'd be unfair, you know?
Okay.
That's why I say email. If you're working on an active opportunity with the federal government, I suggest you email them first, give them time to respond. Because if you call them, they might associate you calling them with, if I word this guy, he's going to call me all the time. I've seen it. I've seen it. Or, calling is intrusive. I'll tell you one of my biggest pet peeves. People email me, and I'm in the process of replying to them, and before they even let me to reply to the email, they're calling my phone.
Yeah, I understand that.
And then they don't leave a voicemail, and then they're texting me. And then they send me another email, and it's like, you didn't even give me 2 minutes to respond to your first email. Why would I want to hire you? You're a pain.
Exactly.
You know, and you don't want them to associate that. And I can tell you it's happened. That's why I say, when it comes to cold calling purchasing agents, yes, call them. Email them your cap statement, call them, hit them with your elevator pitch, ask them what you could do to earn their business. If they say nothing, ask them for a referral, ask them for advice or a tip. And then if they say no, take them off your list, don't call them again. But if you create a relationship, ask them, can I call you back in 3 months and say hi again? Well, sure you can. That's different. But when you're actually bidding on something that's active, I would bother them as little as possible. If you're going to ask them a question, wait till you get all your questions together and do it at once, instead of sending them 4 emails 4 days in a row.
Right. Okay.
I had a purchasing agent say one time, she goes, listen, John Wayne, I don't have to tell you this, but I'm telling you this because I know who you are. I hear your name all the time, and I know you help small businesses. And she says, honestly, you make our lives easier. These guys do exactly what we ask, and that's what you tell them. And so I'm giving you this answer out of courtesy. I didn't hire him because he was just a pain. He kept calling and kept asking questions that were already on the Q&A. It's like, read the documentation before you call me and waste my time.
Right. Okay. That makes sense. I appreciate that.
But on the same hand, if you have to have an answer in order to give them a quote, there's no way around it. You're going to have to get an answer. All right. So to answer your first question, the first thing I would do is I would triple check and make sure that the answer to your question is not already in the documentation and we're overlooking it.
Yeah, well, we've read through and it definitely is not in there.
Well, before you do that, because reading through is one thing, I do this. I go to the document, click on it, download it, wait for it to open.
Yeah.
I'm going to go to the SOW because that's more than likely where it's at. It's taking forever to download. Okay. It's coming. Maybe. Any day now, when the clock strikes go. Come on now. There it is. Okay. So what I do is this. I don't read documents verbatim anymore because there's so much repeat information and stuff that you don't need to read. I do a Control F, and I do a search for quantity, QTY. No? Okay. Spell it out. QUANTITY. No? Okay. Try frequency. No. Try visits. Try different keywords that will you can triple check and make sure that the documentation does not contain that information before you reach out to them. Because the last thing you want is to reach out to a purchasing agent and have them say, can you read? You know, it's in the documentation.
Exactly.
And then you're just creating more work for them. So just always, but if you triple check and do your searches and it's not in there and you have to have an answer to submit a bid, yeah, then you got to reach out to them. And the best way to start is by email. Now, if you don't hear back from them right away, it could be because they're gathering all those questions. They're going to do a Q&A. They're going to post the Q&A. They'll extend the due date. They'll amend it and extend the due date. So I have people that say, well, you know, I emailed them today and I didn't hear back from them and it's due in 5 days. So I'm going to call them tomorrow. No, you still got 5 days. Give them a couple of days. All right.
Okay.
Give them a couple of days to respond. And if you don't, if you don't hear back from them right away, make sure you do a read and a delivery request when you send the email. Make sure they got it.
Right.
And make sure you're emailing them properly. This is huge right here. And I don't know if many people understand when I say this. Emailing a purchasing agent properly, I get people that say, well, I know how to email, dude. That's basic. You know, an idiot can email. No, it's not about knowing how to email. It's knowing how to email purchasing agents properly, because there's a way you do it and 50 ways you don't want to do it. For example, if you are not subscribed to my YouTube channel, I suggest you do, because you'll get the brand new, every time I post a video or an article or something, you'll get notification. If you are subscribed to my YouTube channel, go to my channel and search my channel for email. And watch this video right here. It's called Bid Proposal Solicitation Not Received by the Purchasing Agent, Email Delivery Failure, Undeliverable. This video is really good. It covers 5 steps that you can take when emailing a purchasing agent to do it properly, but to give you the best chances that they'll get the email. I can't guarantee you 100% of the time what I teach you will work, because it doesn't work all the time. But 99.9% of the time, if you follow these 5 steps, you'll never have a situation where a purchasing agent does not get your email.
Okay.
All right, and does not get it properly.
Okay.
And that's all you can do is email them first.
Okay. Appreciate that.
You know,
Appreciate that.
if you have to call them, call them. But call them, have your questions ready, have yourself in order, make the best of their time. Don't make them feel like you're going to wait. I had one client told me, he said, Monday the purchasing agent said this, and Tuesday said that, and Wednesday said this, and Thursday said that. And I'm like, whoa, back up. Are you calling this guy every day? He goes, oh yeah, man, we have a great relationship. We talk and joke. And I'm like, you got to be careful, man. That's dangerous. It could go both ways. No. We got a great relationship. We happen to have the same birth date and have been talking about astrological signs. I mean, deep conversations. But I said, be careful. Well, sure enough, a couple of days later, he said, man, I goofed up. I was talking to that purchasing agent, and he said he was going to Amsterdam, and I told him to make sure to check out the red light district. How did I know he was a priest?
I like that.
Yeah, you screwed that one up, buddy. So
yeah, because the bid itself is when you look at it, it is very simplistic. I mean, it's not rocket science. It's testing 600 people, and that's what I mean. It's easy. It's just okay. The only question is, okay, how many trips in that 9-month period are you doing 600 people in?
Yeah.
That's really the only question.
And that's obviously something you would have to know, period. I mean, if they make one trip and you do it in 1 week, then that's no problem. But if you got to go every week for 9 months, that's, the dollar value is highly dependent on that.
Right. Okay. Yeah, without a doubt.
Now, keep this in mind, too. If this is information that you need that you can't find, most likely everybody else is bidding on it. Most of them are running into the same thing. So if you haven't asked it, someone probably will, and they'll probably wind up doing a Q&A, and they'll amend it, and they'll extend the due date.
Okay. Now, are you able to look at who else is bidding on this? Because there was one other.
Nope.
No.
Nope. The only thing you can do, you can look on the interested vendors list, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they're bidding. Okay. More than half the people on the interested vendors list are not bidding. They're selling something. They're using the interested vendors list as a way to market themselves. The other half that are our actual vendor, probably half of those are subcontractors that just want to be notified when it's awarded so they can offer to do sub work. They're not bidding on it. Out of the 1/4 of the people on the interested vendors list that are a real vendor that are bidding on it, probably half of those don't know what they're doing and they're not going to submit a bid properly.
Okay.
So very few people on the interested vendors list are actually bidding. Now, one way you can figure out to some extent is if they have a on-site visit. You know, if there's a pre-visit, I forget what the term for it is, but a site visit, and they allow everybody to show up on the same day, then you're going to see all the other contractors that show up that day.
Okay.
But if it's a blind site visit, they have contractors come one at a time. You're not going to know who else is bidding.
Right.
You know?
And I think I was the only reason that's because we were listed as an interested one because we know what we're going to do. And I just happened to notice one below, and I thought, well, he isn't even in this line of work. He's simply just right. He was like a business to do government bids for you.
Yep. Proposal writers, probably Marvin Heyman, probably is who it was.
Yeah, I can't remember the name, but yeah, I was like, oh, okay.
Marvin Heyman, Heyman and Associates. I don't know how he does it, but he's on every interested vendors list that exists in FBO. He must pay someone to sit there and do nothing but click add me to the interested vendors list all day long because he's on every one of them. Now, I'll put it out there, and I'm not afraid to. Before we were doing proposal writing services, people used to ask me, hey, I see Marvin Heyman. Is he legitimate? And I said, well, I see him all over the place. He must be. And several clients hired him and won contracts with him. But then one of my biggest clients hired him to do a proposal for a nuclear power plant, and Marvin forgot to include the bid bond. Amateur mistake. They paid for the bid bond. They invested probably $100,000 in site visits and hotel and travel and paying Marvin and putting this proposal together. And then they lost it because he forgot to include the bid bond. And when we did the debriefing, the purchasing agent said, basic amateur beginner mistake, didn't include the bid bond. I couldn't award it to him if I wanted to, and I actually did. They were my first choice. But I wound up having to go with somebody else because they didn't include the bid bond.
Okay. So in costing, like, in other words, so this thing is, say, a small business set aside, a veteran, such and such and such. How does the point criteria go? Like, if you're this, and maybe you're only 4 of those 5 areas, is there a weighted system to that for awarding those contracts?
If it's a small business. Yeah, it does. If it's a small business set-aside, this is the importance. On small business set-asides, 99.9% of the time, and you'll see it right in the synopsis, the most important factor is your solution. Your technical proposal is the #1 factor for being hired. Your past performance is second, and your price is last. So you could have the least amount of experience and the highest price, but if you have the right solution, you're the first choice.
Okay.
Not a small business set aside. It's rarely about solution. It's about price. But if it's a small business set aside, it's just the opposite. And you'll see that in the synopsis almost every time. It'll actually say it.
Okay. That makes sense. Yeah. See, we have another end of the business that's been doing this for a lot of years, but we've never really got into. We've always wanted to do this, and we went through part of this for a year, but we really haven't done much with it. And it's even as far as getting everything in line with more of our capabilities, they've been changing and everything. So I told them, I said, look, it's due May 2nd. I said, we're far too far. This is far too far along for us to bid on this right now. But even if we didn't, take the stab at it would be to at least get some of these questions answered. So we understood, but I don't see how at April 20th we even can remotely bid on this.
Well, I say it every day. I have clients that have no business being a business and they're winning government contracts. I have startups. I have brokers. People I've taught to broker. Clay South, I hate to talk about him all the time, but he told me yesterday he's made, so far this year, guys, he's made $276,000 in profit this year. Now, that's not a lot in the grand scheme of things to most people, but you got to understand, Clay's never owned a business in his life. Went straight into the military out of high school, never even had a job, went right in the military. Saw the War Dogs movie, found my videos, been in my training for 4 months, done over 4 million in revenues and almost $300,000 in profit so far as a broker. As someone who's not even touching, he's not even touching the product. It goes straight from the supplier to the buyer. He has no overhead, you know, outside of hiring some people to grow, because he's growing leaps and bounds. The kid that the War Dogs kid, you know, this kid saw the War Dogs movie, called me up, yo dog, I want to be a war dog, yo. And he just got through telling me he's got 2 felonies, lives in his grandmother's basement, doesn't have a car, doesn't have a license, didn't graduate high school. His grandmother doesn't have Wi-Fi. They're in the middle of BFE. He's got to ride a bicycle to the library to use a computer to submit bids. But he practically begged me, please, I want to do this. Please help me. Please, please, please. He saved up the money and got on board, did my training, and made $100,000 last year in profit. To him, that's $50 gajillion. You know?
Yeah. Well, how do you...
And no drug test.
Exactly.
You own the company, nobody can drug test your ass.
So let's just say we were a little further along and we ended up how do we know whether what resources we have, like yours, the fact we've joined, you know, the group you work with, how do we know before we send something in? In other words, what kind of avenue is there for double checking? Say, look, guys, this is stupid. You guys have this screwed up, or you're missing this or that. Is there any function with that?
Me. I'm your avenue.
Okay.
You know, that contract I told you about, the nuclear power plant, I guarantee you, 99.9% guarantee you, if they would have sent that to me before they submitted it, I would have noticed there was no bid bond. Because the 3 things I check when someone asks me to look at a proposal, I double check the math, make sure the math adds up. I make sure all the documents are attached. I go through the SOW and through the instructions to offer and see what documents are required, and I make sure all the documents are there. And then I go through and I make sure all the documents are filled out properly. Those are the first 3 things I do. So I would have caught that. I know I would have caught that there was no bid bond attached, because that's just amateur, like the purchasing agent said.
Yeah.
But because Marvin gave it to him at the last minute, they didn't have time to let me review it. That's why I suggest, if you're going to bid on contracts, get them done ASAP, submit them as early as possible. And that way you've got time to let me look at it before you submit it. It's not last minute. You know?
Okay, so then my other question would be, so we as a group for 20-some years have fit tested hundreds of companies.
Okay.
So, but we've never fit tested, in other words, but we've never done it for a government project.
Well,
how does our past history even factor into that when I would think it wouldn't count?
Let me ask you, first of all, what is a fit test? What does that mean?
It is when you're getting qualified to wear a respirator in some type of an atmosphere or something. So you can do a qualitative, or which was another question, is it qualitative or a quantitative fit test, which is more using a quantitative fit test apparatus. But
you're just making sure the respirator fits right. That's all a fit test is.
Okay,
I got you. You can wear it, provides you protection.
I got you. You can use your past. You can use your experience as past performance. All right, unless the purchasing agent is specifying that they want past performance within the last 3 to 5 years. This is what they're going to do typically. They're going to ask you if you have past performance. Period. They're not going to ask for details. They're just going to ask you if you have it. They're going to ask you to give them 3 references. 99.9%.
Okay, and it doesn't.
They're not going to check those references. That's okay. I've given my name out as a reference 1,000 times since I've been here, and I've only had one purchasing agent ever call me and verify that reference. So they rarely check them. Now,
so it wouldn't penalize us even if they did. If our references were from private industry, the fact that it wasn't a government contract thing, that would still hold some weight.
Well, that's what I'm getting at here. If they just ask you for references and they don't ask for specific data, then any past performance will do. Okay. I have a guy won a contract. Government asked him if he had any past performance. He said, "Yeah, I worked for Raytheon as a subcontractor for 2 years." They said, "Great." They didn't ask when, where, how, why, or what. The experience was this: when he was in college, he worked for a temp agency, and they hired him as a 1099 to sweep floors at Raytheon at night. He wasn't a subcontractor. Technically, he was a subcontractor, but he wasn't. He was just sweeping floors. But they never asked what you did or when you did it or how much you were paid. They just said, "Do you have any past performance?" And he reluctantly told them, because I told him he could use that, and he was afraid to use it, but he did, and he won the contract. Now, If they ask you for specific past performance, then yes, they're going to want to see federal work within the last 3 to 5 years. If you don't have federal, use state, local, county, any government work. If you don't have that, use commercial, industrial, residential, use what experience you have. But when they're specific, they want it within the last 3 to 5 years, and they want it relevant to the size, shape, and fashion of the contract that you're bidding on.
Okay.
Now, I don't want you guys to put a lot of weight on it or worry about it, because here's the deal. Everybody's been in that situation at one time or another. Everybody was in a position where they didn't have past performance. Now, if you do a subcontract for a prime, that counts as past performance. That's a good way to build it. Or throw enough stuff at the wall, something's going to stick. That's a good way to build your past performance. It's just like, in junior high, when either you decided you wanted to get a job or your dad said, go get a job, you bum. You couldn't just land one because you had no experience. No one wanted to hire you. But eventually somebody gave you a shot,
Okay. Yeah, that sounds real good. I understand everything went through here.
So we do some work for a subcontractor for the Department of Energy. We run drills. So theoretically,
you have past
everybody
performance.
says, you're not working for DOE, but theoretically you are working for the DOE because it's a contract. We're sub to the sub, but whatever, it's
Correct.
still for the DOE.
Correct. I don't care if you're the sub to 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 the sub. You're still a subcontractor. That still counts as past performance. And I've seen as many as 14 subs in a row. And the 14th guy at the bottom of the totem pole, I said, are you serious? I mean, are you making money on this? If there's 14 other guys above you, he goes, I make great money on this. I'm thinking about subbing it out to the 15th guy.
Well, and I guess the point being, and not lying or anything else, because of course we don't want to lie to the government. Ever lie to the government. Yeah, they don't lie to us, we don't want to lie to them. But I guess that these poor guys, most of these big companies, or these big groups that have contracting agents, they're just another process. It's just, this is what it takes. This is what the rules say. This is what I'm asking for. As long as you check the boxes, life is good, and you meet the qualifications, you got the job.
Pretty much.
Now, if they do if there's something very particular, maybe like whatever, brain surgery, and you really need to have a very specific doctor, that might be something. But for the general contract, if you kind of are somewhere in the neighborhood, you're probably pretty good to go.
You guys do state contracts or local, county, city government contracts?
Yeah.
What's the average number of offers you see on those? 20, 30?
Yeah, probably.
On federal contracts, you rarely see more than 5.
Oh, really?
Just statistically speaking alone, federal contracts are better than any other. I think they're better than commercial and industrial and residential contracts right now for 2 reasons. You got you got Monday Night Football. You got NSAM, System for Awards Management. 1.2 million for-profit vendors. 900,000 of them are inactive. You've only got 330,000 active for-profit vendors in SAM right now. More than half of those are big business. More than half of those are IBMs and Raytheons, but let's just say half are big and half are small. That means there's only 160,000 small businesses that are active who can actually do business for the government. And the government's guaranteeing 23% of the federal budget to small businesses, and there's only 160,000 of them that are active. And not all those are compliant just because they're active. We're gonna be going on 100,000 SAM registrations this year. So I can tell you out of that 160,000 are active, at least 100,000 of them are. The other 60 might not be. So statistically speaking, there's only about 100,000 plus vendors that are small business that are in the system that can share that 23% set aside. Compared to 6 years ago when they were using CCR, there was 650,000 small businesses that were active. So you've got 1/5 the competition today that you would have had 5 years ago. As far as my research that I can find, there's less competition in the small business arena with the federal government than in the history of our federal government. And the federal government's guaranteeing more money to small businesses ever than in the history of our federal government. So just those 2 factors alone is mind-boggling. But if you don't believe me and you don't believe APP, I get a few people saying, well, APP is your system. Why should I believe it? Because it pulls from federal systems that are public information. So you can verify anything I've told you by going to any of the federal systems like FPDS and searching any keyword. Give me a keyword.
Safety. Safety.
Safety. I'm going to go by action obligation. So we see the largest contract, 300 million. Click on the view link.
So with us having a w.o.s.b, that also narrows us down even more for less people.
Every set aside you have narrows you down to less competition. So for example,
okay,
as a small business, you're getting 23% set aside. But if you're a minority, you get another 5%. If you're a woman, you get another 5%. You're a veteran, you get another 5%. Service disabled veteran, you get another 3%. Get your 8A, you get another 5%. Get your hub zone, you get another 3%. That adds up to 49% if you're all of the above. And if the government hires you to do one job, they can write each of these totals off on each percentage. So that saves them from having to hire 7 different companies to meet 7 different set-asides when they can hire you and claim all 7 at once. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Wow.
Okay.
So right now, as we sat here without doing any creative work, we've got 28%.
The 28% reasons why the government should hire you. Yep. And then if you look at the statistics, all right, the last one I looked up didn't have any offers received. So it was either a typo or they were just too lazy to fill it in. So let's go to the second one under safety, which is $189 million. Look how many offers received.
1.
This is what I'm talking about. There's less competition in the federal system than ever in the history of our government that I can find, because there's not a lot of data out there about how much money the government spends or where they spend it. You're never going to find where all the money is spent by the government. They're never going to tell you that, ever. But, you know, we can look at this system, which only tracks about 5% of the spending, and see. I want to show you a decent size, because these ones 10, 15, 5,000, 12,000, you know, that's not very many offers received on those. Let's go by date signed. All right, 40,000. That's not a big contract, but not a small one. It's a multiple obligation. They'll collect 153,000 when it's done. They're a startup company, 1 employee, $1 in revenues. That means they're a startup. They're a brand new company, registered as a sole proprietor, probably a DBA. I wouldn't doubt it. I see that happen all the time too. And 5 offers. Like I said, you're rarely going to see more than 5. That's full and open competition, 5 offers. But state, city, county, local government, I see 20, 30, 40, 50 offers on those contracts. They're highly competitive, and the profit margins are usually 2 to 3%. With the federal contracts, average 3 offers received and average markups 15, 20%.
Okay. Wow. That's really interesting.
It's huge.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Anybody else got a question, bid solicitation, proposal? What's that?
I think we are good. I think we're good for now. I think it definitely helped us tremendously to understand more of the process.
So you are the training side. So when we talk to them today, USFCR,
Close enough.
We pay the additional. If you're the additional money we pay, we get you then, right?
Correct. You actually get me. The way the training works is this. I do it every day at 1 and 4 Eastern, live through GoToMeeting like we're at right now. So it's a live group training. And I set aside at least an hour. Sometimes you only have 10, 15, 20 minutes worth of questions. Sometimes there's more. Sometimes I'll have something that I want to discuss or something new or something that burns my ass I want to cover. Or you guys ask good questions, or people have a bid proposal solicitation they want to work on, and we go through them together. Whatever, it's an open forum. Then we have advanced training where you can work with me one-on-one outside the group session. Some people will hire me to come out for a week and train their staff for a week on site, but they pay for hotel and travel and per diem. Or they do it through GoToMeeting where they have me personally outside the group session, but it's one-on-one. And then we even have an advanced training that's coming It's actually out now, where I go through and look at your entire business model from start to finish, from A to Z, and not only work with you on federal contracts, but everything you got in place now, what I can suggest, what I know, what my clients have taught me that worked for them, and more importantly, what doesn't work, and help you shape up your current business. I had a gentleman join me on that going on 3 weeks ago now, and we spent 1 hour, I think it was a half an hour the first time, and within a couple of days, he implemented everything I told him on the first half hour, and several days later, he said, John Wayne, I see a huge increase of business. Our phones are ringing off the hook. I can't believe we overlooked some of this stuff, and we weren't doing some of this basic stuff. I went through the second hour with him and told him he should reconsider. He's got a fleet of vehicles. And I asked him, do you have commercial or normal insurance? And he said, well, I just have normal, but we have wraps on the vehicles. They're commercial vehicles. And I said, you should consider, based on the rules and laws in your state and your county, if they require you to have commercial insurance, you should reconsider that. And he did, and he got commercial insurance. And the following Monday, one of his guys hit dry ice and rolled one of his vehicles. So just perfect timing, But that's what the training's
so
for.
Where does so these are free. Well, they're not free, but you pay for them. These additional advanced trainings and stuff are like when you do a go-to meeting. As long as you don't come out, are those still covered under what we paid for?
I'm not sure what Marianne signed you guys up for. I can talk to her after the session's over. But there's 3 levels of training. There's 3 levels of training. There's this basic group training that I do every day. You can pay for that and get access to me in the group for 1 year. There's personal one-on-one training outside the group session where you can purchase hours of training or a package of hours that you can use at your discretion. And then the advanced training gives you guaranteed access to me 1 hour a week, every week for the next 52 weeks.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
All righty. Thank you very much.
No problem. I got a question here in the chat. Says, this is from Mindy. How do we set up a mentor protege? I was told the SBA needs to approve it, but how do we do it? Mindy, are you asking for that you want to become a protege to a mentor? Or are you asking if you want to start and be a mentor for a protege? Because there's 2 different processes. If you want to be a protege to a mentor, you can reach out to the SBA and ask them for a list of mentors in your area, and you can reach out to the mentors and kind of pick one that you like. The mentor protege program is nice, and it's great that it's offered, but here's the problem. The program's as good as the mentor. Bottom line. If you got a mentor who is only doing it because they want to, they want the title, they're doing it for the prestige, they're doing it to show people that they're important, and they don't really care about you, you're not going to get anything out of it. They're not going to invest any time with you. They're going to give you basic information and tell you to get lost. If you find a good mentor who cares and will actually help you and spend time with you, it can be a great program. But it's hit or miss. I'd say it's 50-50 whether or not you're going to get a good mentor or not. And I doubt they're going to teach you anything more than I'm going to teach you. And in most cases, definitely not more, way less than I'm going to teach you. Being a mentor in a mentor protege program, I say it's a good thing because I've found that helping people is the healthiest thing I can do on this planet to become a better person. I get help by helping people. You were told the SBA needs to approve it. Yeah, they do need to approve it. So you'd have to reach out to your local SBA rep for that. SBA, PTAC, SCORE, the Mentor Protege program, guys, I've heard more horror stories than I've heard success stories. So I'll just leave it at that. I don't like talking bad about people. It's a waste of breath. But if I had a nickel for every time somebody said they drove to the SBA or to a SCORE or to a PTAC and spent an hour there and then spend a half an hour driving back to their office every day for the last 52 weeks, I'd be able to retire. I had one guy said he drove every day or once a week to SBA and once a week to PTAC for the last 3 years, watched one of my videos in 1 hour and learned more than he's learned in the last 3 years. Next question is, actually, this is a statement from Rafa. She's saying, hi, Mindy. I went through vocational rehab with the VA, and even though they said they need to approve you, the mentor-protege relationship, it seems more to validate your experience than to create the relationship. Yeah, I agree with that. So far, everything I've done, I've pushed myself and then spoon-fed it to my counselor. I found my mentor. I built my training program, and now I'm pushing her to provide me with paperwork to validate my program. Awesome. You know, and it's one more thing to say that you have, too. If you can say I graduated from the Mentor Protege program, that means something, you know, to people that don't know. It's also like saying I have an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau. That means something to people who don't know any better. If they rely on the Better Business Bureau, then your A+ rating is gold. But if there's someone like me who knows the Better Business Bureau is just another scam to get money out of you, your A+ rating makes you look to me like you're an idiot. You know, how much did you spend on your Better Business Bureau rating this year? Well, you know, it cost us $23,000, but you know, we've got an A+ rating. They gave an A+ rating to ISIS. The guys that kill people. Yeah. Any other questions, guys?
Yeah, John, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so still the same question with the general merchandising and how I can actually input all the products I need, alerts or emails on.
Yes, I have not got an answer from the guys yet, which is a good thing, because if it was something they absolutely couldn't do, they'd reply to me right away and say, we can't do that. Okay. Hopefully, I get an answer from them soon, and that answer will be, yes, you can upload it. I'm hoping we'll be able to set it so that you guys can upload an Excel spreadsheet of part numbers or of keywords, and they can automatically create the searches to run on those part numbers of those keywords. That would be awesome. Because you're not the only person in this, you know, I don't want to say dilemma. There's definitely ways around it, but I'd like to see a solution that's not so time consuming, you know?
Okay. For the meantime, though, what do I need to be doing? Is there a way you can show me how to input the keywords and then set up automatic emails to be sent to my personal?
In APP or in FBO?
In APP, I believe. That's your system, right?
Yes. Advanced Procurement Portal is our system. APP pulls from FBO. It pulls from USA Spending. It pulls from Subnet. Pulls from FPDS. It pulls from all the systems that we know of where there's data on federal contracting and federal awards. So you don't have to use 8 different systems. You can use one system.
Okay.
Yep, you can set the searches up. I've got a video on online where I can send you over a link for the video that shows how to set them up.
Please.
And if you guys want, we can also touch base on that today at 4. I don't want to get into it now because I've only got about 10 minutes left, and we're doing the live YouTube training immediately following this training.
Okay, that's fine.
Any other questions, guys? Nope. All right. We'll be back on here at 4 o'clock. The YouTube live training that's coming up here in the next 10 minutes is primarily for new people. It's a recording of the last 3 weeks, compilation. So if you've been in on it the last 3 weeks or last week or the week before that, you're going to hear the same thing you heard last week or the week because we recorded it and we're just reposting it. It's primarily for the newbies to give them an introduction and to let them know how the training works and all that. All right, guys. Right. So I will see you guys at 4 o'clock.
Thanks, John.
No problem.
Thanks. We'll see you later.
Of course. Always. Anytime. Guys can thank me after you win your first contract. You'll hear me say it every day. I'll see you at 4.